first, I'll start with what Andy's mom, with the conviction, because I always try to do a self-reflection of like, how was I today? Like, how was, on a scale of 1 to 10, in 10 being the worst and 1 being good. I'll say that. I think because if you're not first, you're last.
Okay.
So 1 is my good. 10 is like at the
right
height of anger and mad. Like I was at a 10. So. Yeah, so yesterday, so every day though, I try to go through my day of like, okay, have a self-reflection. I go home at night and I'm laying in bed and I'm not looking at my phone and I'm like, okay, how were you as a mom, as a wife, as a friend? Do you think you did well? Or what areas do you think you can improve on? Well, yet this morning I was convicted because I always feel like I have my phone always on me, or I'm always looking at it. It's dumb stuff. It's clothes, it's Pinterest, it's TikTok, it's laughing, it's Bridgerton that I'm on right now, and all of these things. So yesterday I was thinking about it when I was picking up the boys, or picked up Matthias. I was like, did I have my phone in my hand the whole time when I was talking to your mom? And was I talking to her, or was I looking at my phone and not engaged while talking to her? So now I'm like, so obviously I know you're going to get Matthias, but I'm going to talk to her the next day or when I see her tomorrow and just apologize, because I'm like, I don't know if I was or I wasn't, but there's something within me where I know I was not paying attention to her. And so that was for me where I was like, I need to do better at, is making sure that if I'm in a room, it's one of those things where you go to a counter at what people find it very disrespectful. If you go to a grocery store and you're on the phone and the person that's checking you out is just staring you down or looking at you, or even if you go, I went to Kaiser and it says, please put your phone away while we're handling your medication or anything, because you need to be paying attention. So I need to be more mindful that if I'm in a social setting to put my phone down. So
what did we get an argument about 2 nights
ago? So then
ago?
2 nights ago, because it was a self-reflection, because I was laughing because of my self-reflection, because I know that day I was probably like, that you said I was yelling a lot. And so then I was like, okay, I'm probably at like an 8 right now, so it's pretty bad. But we started arguing and I was just talking to Nancy about how in marriage, sometimes arguments start off from the dumbest things.
Correct.
Always. And so I don't know. Thomas was just screaming, I don't know why. Oh, because we didn't get ice cream. Because, oh my gosh, we
promised him ice cream, and then he had to go poop, so we just drove home instead of getting him ice cream. So he was really upset about it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so then he was upset about it. And so he screamed probably for a good 10, 15 minutes. So from him screaming and just being so loud, I'm like, this house is loud. And so then you came around the corner and you're like, hey! So you scared me. Scared Thomas. Startled him, and then I was like kind of mad that you scared me, because I was like, you don't scare me.
Yeah, I was like, that's enough.
That's enough. And I was like, okay. And then you go to the couch and you're like, where's the remote? And I was like, oh. And now this time, mind you, I'm on my phone. So I was like, I don't know. He's like, why don't you just put the remote back? There's 2 side tables over here. There's a remote. I was like, I don't know where the remote is.
Well,
maybe if you open your eyes.
Like, when you get up and you're like, now, mind you, here's how people don't really know how people with ADHD work is the way someone with ADHD works is we have a space in our space that is a messy space, but then everything else has to actually be really tidy. Like, we don't live in complete chaos. There has to be a space that is chaotic. So like, I have a room in our house that is my chaotic space. And no matter how much, the only way to fix it is medication, which I refuse to take. So you have to find ways to compensate. But everything outside of that one chaos space actually has to be pretty like orderly and tidy. And so like this idea that like, let's just say I'm done. We're done watching TV for the night. So this is my routine every night. We're closing down the house. I go to every room. I make sure all the lights are shut off. I make sure that, everything's put away. I make sure that for the most part, all the doors are locked, everything like that. Mind you, like Ashlee, she'll leave all the lights on downstairs and go to bed.
I'm that person that turns the lights off and runs upstairs
but they're all on half the time. She doesn't understand the concept of an electricity bill, or really any bill for that matter, up when it comes to the house. So, like, to me, I'm like, okay, we're downstairs. We're done watching TV. We're going to get the boys ready to bed. Okay, so I turn off the speaker. I turn off the TV. I put the remotes somewhere that's somewhat logical, you know? So it's like going to be right under the TV, or it's going to be right on the armrest where like the couch is. It's like, okay, everything you have to find, you know where it's at. Consistently. 6-7 times a week, which there's only 7 days in a week. 6-7 times a week, it's like, hey, I saw you watching TV last night in our room, Ashlee, because there's like this little mini sofa in our room where we watch with the boys and stuff like that. I'm like, hey, I saw you watching TV last night. Where's the remote? She's like, how would I know? And I'm like, because you turned off the TV and put the boys to bed last night. What do you mean, how would you know where the TV is? And always her first answer is, I don't know. It's not like, oh, yeah, you're right. I was watching. Let me think about it for a second. She thinks that if she doesn't know where it's at, like she has no responsibility to know where it's at. And it's like, but you were the last person who touched it. Why would I? So she's like, just look around. And I'm like, why would I do that if you know where it's at? So that's what happened. 2 days, we're getting this argument because I'm like,
I know where it was at.
I'm like, where is it at? And she's like, well, just look for it. And I'm like, or you can put your phone down, spend 10 seconds thinking, and she goes, oh, it's right here, and reaches to her side table, grabs it, and goes, here it is. Why'd you get so mad? I'm like, that's why I got mad.
Because it was standing right there. Why didn't you? And then prior to that day, so now that was in the night, but during the day, we were downstairs, and he's just sitting on his phone, and he's like, I was like, what's your problem? I was like, I came by to set up my phone too. And he's like, can't find the remote. I was like, did you look for it? He's like, I'm not going to sit here and turn over all these couches for it to be where it should be. I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, well, just so you know, it's over on the high chair.
Which is like not even by the TV. So I'm thinking like, how do you got off the couch with the remote in your hand and go, oh, this can go here, which is like by our front door. So I was just like, how? And so for someone with ADHD, like that, because the moment something is chaotic and it's just like, I don't know where it's at. Because someone with ADHD, a space may appear to be messy, but they know where everything is. They have every recollection of where every sock is, every shoe is. And so then for someone who like just goes, oh no, it's just messy, I don't know where it's at, that like riles us up, because it's like, even if it's messy, you should know where it's at. Even if it's, you know, like you should always know where someone's at. What do you mean? This morning you had it. Like, where is it right now? So Ashlee would be like, it's not like you put everything. I'm like, but the moment you ask me, I always have an answer. The moment you're like, oh, where's it? Oh, it's upstairs by the cat. I'll go grab it for you. Like you just go like, I don't remember. And it's like, but you had it an hour ago. How do you not remember where
this is definitely,
where it's at?
I think this is definitely a topic of conversation though within relationships, because my brother told me the same thing, that he was looking for a belt the other day, and my sister-in-law was like, I don't know where it is, Aunt. I don't know. And Anthony goes, I need it. Like, this is a specialty belt that I need. He goes, why was it folded up in, you know, the shoe rack that collapses?
Yeah.
It was in there. But like, that's what I was going to say too, because I'm sure a lot of wives, when you just see something sitting out, you just want to put it away because you think you're tidying it up. And then sometimes I just forget where I put it, because like your tailor scissors, still can't find them.
Yeah.
He yells at me every time. He cuts clothes like probably 3 times a week, and he's like, like ripping it. And I was like,
so I bought these like really nice on Amazon. They weren't expensive, but they were like scissors tailors use. They're like huge, they're thick, they cut a lot. And then I told her one day, and I bought her a pack of like 3 scissors from like Home Depot. And so I'm like, hey, these scissors are yours. This one tailor scissor is mine. Like, I always want to know where it's at. And she's like, okay, no problem. Like a month later, she's like doing a project with Matthias, and she's got this like 6-inch tailor scissors she's like using for it. And I'm going, where are all the scissors I got you? And she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, but I asked you like not to touch those. And she's like, I'm going to put them right back a week later. And this was like 4 months ago. Yeah, we still don't know where those scissors are at. And they're huge.
They're massive. And they're sharp.
And I consistently ask, like, where are these scissors? She's like, I don't know where I put them. And I'm like, it's one thing if you threw something on mine that I had laying out and okay, you don't remember it, but it's like you had it. You had it, not me. It's not like someone was on the counter and you just threw it. It's like you were in possession of it. How do you not know? I know almost everything I have possession of, where it is to a T. Even if it's under the bed, I know where it's at. You don't know where anything is at.
The thing is, I don't know where your stuff is at.
No, you don't. You don't even know where your stuff is at.
I don't know where his stuff is at.
You don't even. You have
Even
no
now,
concept
I
of
guess
your
so.
stuff
Yeah,
either.
that's true. Because I'll put it away and you'll be like, "Where'd you put it?" I'm like, "I don't remember."
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me.
I think I put it somewhere where I'm going to remember and then I forget because I already put 12 other things away. But yeah. So that, but I'll say this though too, is that the argument ended up just being funny because then after we just watched Ghostbusters together.
Yeah. I mean, we don't hold on to arguments long. It's just
no, because then we start laughing.
It's just, or one of the boys says something.
And you know
dumb
me, I'll be like, "Oh, make sure you put that remote away."
Mind you, I know where exactly it's at because I last had it. Right now, I know exactly where the. I'm just like, how can you not put the remote on the like? There's the TV console. Put it on the console. We have 2 side tables. Put it on the side. Like, what is it doing in our bathroom? That's what I don't understand. Like, why is the remote in our bathroom?
I don't know. I think I turned it off and walked with it and was like, "Oh,
yeah."
Well,
it's like, what is this doing here? So on everything, look, I got Rooster's like training thing for those watching on YouTube. I don't have these on particularly for me. I have Apple AirTags on everything because of her. Yeah. Because she'll grab this and use this and be like, I don't know where it's at. Why would I know where it's at? That's your dog. And I'll be like, because you were using it. What do you mean? Why would you know where that? It was in your hand last. So her keys have Apple AirTags because she loses them every 10 seconds. Man. My key, but not because of me. Because she grabs that stuff all the time and loses Nancy, it.
Tell me.
So we're dinging AirPod pad, whatever these are, AirTags. We're dinging AirTags all day at our house.
Wait, so did you know this about each other, or you find this out like after?
You find this out
after.
After.
Dang, so you can't find this out.
Well, unless you're a
before?
sinner and you're testing the car out, living with someone.
Scratch that out. If you're not living with somebody, you technically can't find out hard. Certain things until you get
it would be hard
and find out.
It really would.
But like you'll see, people will probably put in the comments like this mirrors 80% of relationships.
Oh yeah,
whether it's the guy or the girl or what, like roles may reverse. A girl may be like, oh, that's my husband. That's like Ashlee or whatever. Like that. Those are, I guess it's stereotypical relationship stuff you deal with. So it's like some of these things there's just no way to avoid. You just have to learn how to argue well, communicate well, get over stuff well, that's the nature of the beast. Make up well, like all those things like that. You're not gonna. There's no way couples go like, oh, I'm just trying to avoid, blank, and it's just like, oh, let's probably add some kids in the mix, add crazy work schedule,
add someone not getting ice cream screaming.
Yeah, it's like you're gonna.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, everybody, welcome to Beyond I Do. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you relate to that first bit of conversation.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a common thing with couples.
People laughing, definitely.
Yeah, but thanks for joining us on Beyond I Do. We'll throw us, since we've already been talking for a little bit, we'll throw a relatively shorter episode today.
Yeah.
What I thought people have asked many times, so I thought maybe we'd jump into it. Yeah. Because I think we haven't talked about our calendar in a really long time. A couple people recently asked, well, it actually wasn't recent, it was some time, but I forgot about it. Nancy always just throws me people's questions, and sometimes we get to them and sometimes we don't. But they had asked, and we could put it in my perspective, but we could just say, hey, this is the course for anyone who's in a high level work environment. They said, what is it like being married to someone who has high drive, busy schedule, big goals, a lot of sacrifice? And so a woman asked that one time, saying that her husband has his own company. He has a lot of dreams, a lot of goals, and it takes a lot of sacrifice. So they wanted to know from you, like, how do you support? Now, the case may be vice versa. It may be two people building, husband and wife. So might be a little bit of a different application, but we can only speak to our side of things. And we've heard on Beyond the Letter, Nancy, Will recently on Beyond the Letter shared. Will Chung, who's become like a co-host for Beyond the Letter, he's a very busy guy. He's a church planner, works for a lot of organizations. He has said on the podcast that Adam is probably the most busiest pastor he's ever met. So that's just going from his perspective of him being aware of my schedule, what a week looks like for me. Nancy has said, same thing. They said it in one of the episodes. Like Nancy was like, I don't know how he has time, how he sleeps or whatever.
Yeah.
Now that's just a joke, but that she said, but that's the reality. So, so to put that in perspective, some weeks I'm working, maybe 60, 70 hours.
Yeah.
So the person's question, and a couple of people asked, is like, how do you support, how have you reconciled the like, okay, I'm married to a guy who is just always going to have big dreams, big schedule. On my case, it's sometimes traveling and other stuff like that. Everyone's a little different, but what's your perspective on that? And then we could talk about some practical things like our calendar we've employed, and we, literally hundreds of people do our shared calendar, that we recommend and all that stuff like that, which we'll get to. But first, your approach, like how have you reconciled it? Have you ever, at what point in marriage of 9 years did you say like, okay, I think I married a guy who's like, he's going to always be busy.
Yeah. I would say that it honestly, for me, knowing you just obviously from the beginning and seeing your work ethic, seeing your ambition, seeing the rooms that you affect, the wisdom that you've always wanted to obtain and gain, I had to have a reflection on, I know we had those conversations too, on how, one, I didn't lose myself or my identity, but two, it was more of an inner, for me to have a self-reflection of like, I'm a team player. I mean, I'm just naturally ingrained an athlete, and I view us as a team, and I view you as obviously the head and the lead and the coach of this team. So for me, you have never given me though empty words or empty thoughts or empty dreams. You've always been a man of your word. So there was never ever a time where I felt that you were living out this hopeless dream or that there was no gain or wisdom from it, because there's always been fruit when I've seen that you've done whatever you've wanted to do, either writing a book and doors just opening in that perspective, or being in a room with big name people, those doors have been opened, and you've been a cause and effect in those rooms, and how people just gravitate towards you. So me as your wife and your team,
sweat equity in companies.
Yes. So for me as your wife, I never viewed it as a burden. I always felt like and it may sound stupid for me to say, but like your admin behind the door, like, yeah, absolutely. You're going to this. You're going with Brad at Lominick over here. Absolutely. Go ahead. Oh, you're with your cohort over here. Okay, great. You're building connections with that. Because at the end of the day, what you're doing, and I know it may be different than what somebody be doing in corporate, but I feel like they can almost go in the same. I feel like if you're doing it biblically and you're doing it with a good heart and you have character, ethics, and morals, like we always talk about in the corporate world as well, as a wife, I find nothing but honor and pride to be your second in command. And not to say that I don't say that there's sometimes you'll ask me like, hey, wisdom or anything like that. But for the most part, I know that's all you. And I think that on the other side of things, I find more pride in it, you saying that you're content with me being second in command to run the family. Mm-hmm. So I think it goes one and the same, instead of looking at it like my husband's on the go, I'm on the go. Mm-hmm. We're doing this together. He's providing and having provision and showing me wisdom, and you're pouring back into me. So when you go to these things or you're in certain rooms, we communicate after when you come home, and you're telling me all of these things and the doors that have been opened and the connections that you have made to where I feel a part of it. Mm-hmm. You've never excluded me from those moments or those opportunities. So when I go in a room, those people know who I am. And I've never stepped in those rooms. Yeah. Because you as a husband have honored me. So for me, I find it as, yeah, go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone's got to, can it get sort of like, again? Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. but the fruit that our family gains, the wisdom that our family gains, you are totally a man that is work hard, play even harder. Mm-hmm. You've never put us at second, that's for sure. There have been moments and times where I have even told you, like, hey, I see this is on the calendar. Is it necessary? Mm-hmm. And we'll have those conversations. Is it necessary for you to go? Because I feel like you've been going a little bit. Or it'll be like, yes, this is necessary, but when I come back, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because I'm hearing you, I'm listening to you. So there's always that. We always compare us to the Michael Jordan and the Scottie Pippen. Like there's the assists, and then there's the 3-point shooter, and you're the 3-point shooter, and I'm the one giving you the assists. So for me, I knew early on, and I knew you had a calling on your life. I knew that you had that would be a big effect. I knew that because you have a great work ethic, you have a humble heart. So for me, I feel like I would be doing myself more harm, because I feel like it's not my call. I don't ever want to get in the way of your calling. Mm-hmm. And I know the calling that's on your life, and I knew it prior to you even seeing it.
And when you say calling, you're not talking about like specifically calling of being a pastor, but like calling in terms, even though pastoring is my career, but like in general, like when you're saying calling, you're like recognizing that I was aware of my purpose.
Absolutely.
And how hard I wanted to work to get there, and still, processing getting there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when it came to those things, there are moments, and I'm not going to lie, there are moments where sometimes I do get lonely, and there's sometimes where I do feel like, man, he's gone a little bit too much, but I try to really reflect on, am I still loved? Mm-hmm. Is he still being intentional? Is my marriage still his number one priority? If I started to see that it wasn't, then I would have some reserve.
Yeah.
Because naturally, that's just natural. You feel like he's out grinding, he's doing his work life, but that's what the same thing I feel like when you talk about like someone who's a stay-at-home mom or provides for the kids at home. That's the same thing. I think we've even talked about with Sanaz and Pastor Nathan, where it's like, okay, it's the 80-20 sort of thing, or what did we say, the 40-60, you give 60% at home, I give 60% at home, you give 40% at home, but you give 60% at work, and I give whatever, or 80% at work, and I give 20% at work. So we have a really good balance, and I think we have a really good communication on what our desires are for our life. And I don't think I've ever wanted to be a wife of hindrance to stop you from because we talk about your visions and your goals and your dreams, but you will only know how hard you want to work for those. And for me, it's, however hard you go, let's go.
Yeah,
let's go. I mean, it's just naturally ingrained in me as an athlete. Like, are we going for this? Let's do this. Yeah. Because I mean, in reality, if I would have known in the transition, because at first when we first got married, it was me. I just didn't want to be a pastor's wife. That was because I didn't know what that was going to look like. Obviously, now fast forwarding me, and the reason why I knew, or I didn't want to be a pastor wife in that moment, is because I knew that it was you. Mm-hmm. I knew it was you that was going to be taking over and being in the transition. I had even told you, and you're like, no. I said, all right, I'll keep it to myself, but this is something. And I feel like in that moment, God was preparing me to say, like, it's going to happen, and I need you to be prepared. Yeah. Me, talking about me. I need you to be prepared, but then I also need you to not get in my way.
Yeah.
And so I even think about that just even as a Christian, sometimes how we get in our own way. And that's one thing I've made statements before, and I would like to agree with. Oh, sorry, friends.
Matthias just got out of school, and he looked like a mess. What did you do today?
You look like a Smurf. What?
Bro.
Okay, come in the camera and then come out of the camera for everybody to see.
What do you do?
What? Oh my. Okay, you need a bath, but okay, go sit down and go in your bed. Go.
What did you do? What did you do?
I have a picture of him.
Color painting.
You were what?
Color painting.
You were color painting?
Was it fun?
But how is it on your face?
Was it fun though?
What do you have, Andy?
He looked worse. according to the
really?
picture that I have. Like
Okay, I
a few
can't wait
seconds
to
ago.
see
Your mom sent you
Yeah.
some stuff?
Okay. Perfect.
It's crazy. All right, everybody, welcome to our advertisement.
Yeah.
So you're watching our episode. We did a short break.
Yep.
What do we got a little break for, Ashley?
Oh, something really, really exciting that when you came home and told me about the news, I was overjoyed, and I hope you had 30 pieces, but you only had one, but it's okay.
Yeah,
We are
yeah.
going to be talking about our new partnership
Yes.
with an amazing jeweler.
Yes. So we have big news. We've teamed up with the exceptional jeweler, Aaron Barnett, to bring you a unique jewelry experience from precious metals to custom creations. Aaron has it all, whether you're treating yourself or surprising a loved one. So it could be for you or someone you love, okay? Mother, grandmother, sibling, spouse,
Yep.
a loved one. His jewelry is a testament to cherished moments. As part of our community, you get special discounts and a chance to visit his private showroom in Los Angeles. So for anniversaries, birthdays, or just because, discover Aaron's jewelry in our show notes. Elevate your relationships with exquisite pieces from our partner, Aaron Barnett. It's a great relationship that we have because now we can offer great discounts to our Beyond I Do community
awesome.
to hook them up. And so you visit, like we said, visit the show notes and let's get back into the show.
But yeah, so back to my point is, for me, I never wanted to be the hindrance. And I knew that you had this potential to do amazing and big things. And we as Christians can get in our own way. And that is something that I never wanted to, I was going to say that, which I think I take more pride in. And I don't want to say it arrogantly, but I know that, but a lot of women don't understand the effect and the influence that you've talked about before that women have.
Turn it down with dice.
The influence that women have. God had spoke to me and basically told me, like, you have the effect and the influence to allow Adam to do what I've called him to do, to put him in places that I want to put him, or you have every influence to keep him from it all.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't think I would be able to live with, because then I'm keeping people from the kingdom. I'm keeping people from getting saved. I'm keeping people from walking through these doors. I'm keeping people from sitting at this table with you and being able to break bread with you. And how selfish of me as a wife, because what's so funny is I'm naturally extroverted when you meet me, but when it comes to like my friendships and stuff, I'm very, I would say I'm considered very like tight knit. Like I have very close friends, and that's kind of how I am and just wired. But like with you, you're naturally introverted, but when it comes to circles, you're so good at having those friendships and connections.
Yeah.
And so for me as a wife, it doesn't bother me. I don't get jealous of those things. That's just your gifting. And so am I answering the question?
No, you are. Yeah, you touch it. Yeah. And I think on my end, what's nice is like, not only do you encourage what it is that we're trying to accomplish, whether it's through our role at the church or whether it's through me financially, because not all of my income do I get from the church. I have sweat equity in companies that I had used to maybe market for them, but then I went into a consulting role that came with ownership shares in their company or whatever it is. And so there's this multi-layer, or I'm out preaching somewhere or something like that. So I have a multiplicity, or I have an investment in something. I've done real estate in the past. So it's like, there's that. So I have multi-layered financial income streams.
Yeah.
And so, as each of those things have had to pull on me, and more as like, I've now become the senior pastor of this church, that takes 90%. But once upon a time, just 4, 5, 6 years ago, though that was my 9 to 5, so to say, like 50% of the money I made was from my work outside through a marketing company that I had. And so, through that process, as you saw the family be invested in, and like I've been able to afford to what I would know either from you or from us saying, hey, where do you, you didn't like where we lived because it was a nice house, but it was my bachelor pad in the sense that I had guys that lived with me and you never really felt like it was yours. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to, in years, I'm going to get us out. I'm going to get us a house in Rancho. And we lived with my parents for 2 years while I rented my house out. And then I sold it, made a bunch of money. And then, I took a loan out on some of my equity and my stock that I have in some stuff and got our house. And so I'm like, okay, I'm giving my wife like what I feel like she wants. You're not demanding it, but like the more I can make her life easy, the more she'll let me continue to I'm just a worker by nature.
Right,
it's probably my Mexican blood, but I'm not a lazy guy at all. And laziness doesn't make any sense to me. So other than I've had to teach myself like, hey, you need to do nothing today or you need to take a nap. Otherwise I wouldn't, I would never stop. Yeah. And so I don't struggle with that side of man, I just need to be inspired. I need to get off my butt. Like I've never understood that or relate. I'm the opposite. It's like I have to know when to turn it down or when to rest or whatever that is. And so through my pursuit of the hard work it takes, like you've just always, for the most part, and I'll qualify in a second, but you've always like you just supported that. Okay, I'll do whatever I got to do on my side. I'll take care of whatever, even to the point where like if I am traveling or I'm somewhere else and I'm like, hey, you need to meet, there's a contractor coming to the house. You got to meet him and tell him X, Y, and Z or send him, I'm going to send you pictures. And you're like, okay, you're not like, this is something you should be doing here and blah, blah, blah. Like you could easily do that. Schedule it when you're in town, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But you're like, no, okay, just let me know what I got to do. I'll drop the boys off for school. I'll come back. Like you support it and make it easy. Where in the sense that like, okay, I know that like the house is good. I know that our day-to-day is good. There's times even for our friendships, their kid maybe had a birthday and you're like, hey, Adam's out of town, but I'm still coming. Family gathering, Adam's out of town, but I'll still come. Or Adam's got to preach tomorrow. He's exhausted or he preached yesterday. He's not going to be able to come, but I'll be there. Yeah. So you've always still represented our family. You're not like timid, like, well, if you're not there with me, I don't want to be there or anything like that. You represent that well. There is only a handful of situations because I want to put perspective. It's not always pretty and it's not always like, oh yeah, we're so in sync. In 2020, I was taking on, basically my dad looked at me and he said, when we went into COVID and we went all digital, my dad looked at me and said, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know anything about technology. He said, us getting through COVID is going to be solely on you. And he said that to me. So I was like, okay, so I grinded. I mean, we had just lost our social media person. So for 2 years at our church, I would answer almost all of our DMs. For 1 year, I did all of our social media from 2020 to a little bit of 2021. I did all of our church's Instagram because we were in a big transitional season. So I'm running our Instagram. We're filming out of our house for the first 4 months because COVID locked down. So we opened up our home. We turned it into a studio. So we're doing prayer and Wednesday live stream and all these things like that from our house. And on top of that, my marketing company, elements of it is taking off. I'm producing a show for Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter, Bernice King. I'm producing a show for Nona Jones, who was at Facebook at the time. And so I'm like, and I sat you down. I was like, hey, here's all these opportunities. I have Martin Luther King Jr. She wants me to manage Martin Luther King Jr.'s social media accounts. She wants me to manage their entire family's digital presence. She wants me to produce a once a week show for her where, Deepak Chopra and Oprah and all these people are being interviewed, and I'm going to be the producer of it. And then Nona, who's at Facebook, who's now head of partnerships at YouVersion Bible app, was like, oh, Nona's doing a show. And she asked me, because when COVID hit, no one knew how to do shows digitally. Right. A lot of people didn't. They had staff and they would outsource staff and crews to film stuff. Right. But the moment things shut down, people were like, we don't know how to do it from home, but still be produced well. I knew how to do that. So all these companies and people were coming to me because they still needed to keep their exposure out there. And so I sat you down. I was like, okay, I'm running the church I'm doing this for Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter and his estate. I'm doing this for Facebook, Nona Jones. I'm doing it. I was like, if you're okay with this, like, this is what life is going to look like, for the next 6 months. They're like, oh, okay. yeah, I support you, babe. Blah, blah, blah. Sounds great. That's what you got to do. And then by like month 4, we were at Nathan and Sanaz's, and you just turn around. How much longer is this going to last? Blah, blah, blah. And you just broke down. You're yelling at me. You're crying. And I'm looking at Nathan and Sanaz because we had brought them in on the early onset of me taking on all these opportunities. And I looked at you and was like, did I communicate everything? Did I leave you in the dark? And you're like, no. Did I tell you this was going to be 6 to 9 months, maybe 12? You're like, yes. Okay. Did I give you the schedule of what days it would be? Yes. Okay. All right. What are you frustrated with that I didn't communicate? And you were like, nothing. I don't like it now. And I was like, well, I'm a man of my word. There's nothing I can. There's nothing I can do. I made commitments. I'm producing these shows, and the church by then was meeting in person, which brought on a new level of work in a different way. But it was just like what do you? I can't. Yeah. We made this commitment. Right. You could have even said, well, that's your commitment. No, it's our commitment because you were in agreement. I was in agreement. We said yes to this. Like. We made this commitment. Right. So what do you what do you want me to do about it? And you were really what it ultimately came down to is you were tired, you were stressed, you were grieving your father's passing, and I just had to allow you to let it out. But that's what it came down to. Right. It's just like, it wasn't like you questioned me or you were mad at me or I was doing something I shouldn't. It was just you were emotionally exhausted. You broke down. I had to back up and be like, Adam, don't take this personal. This isn't a reflection of her supporting you or not supporting you. Right. This is her tired, exhausted. Yeah. This is her with, Matthias, who was a 2.5-year-old at the time. Yeah. And you were soon in a few months or at the time, no, you were pregnant already. Yeah. So you're pregnant, your hormones. So it was just like, okay, I had to come back. We were upset. We were obviously arguing in the moment, but then within the next coming days, it was like, okay, Ashlee's emotionally exhausted. Yeah. I'm tired because I'm working like crazy. And it was just like, okay, we're going to have to continue to communicate. And then from that, I could tell, I had to make some decisions now as a husband. Like, you put the ball in my court to say, yeah, we did commit it, but like, I'm exhausted. Right. So, I met with Nona and I met with Bernice King Jr. or Bernice King. And, I told them in 60 days, I won't, be producing their show anymore. And I'm happy to cross-train anyone in their companies or anyone they recommend to produce their shows. And the King Center, offered a very generous salary to continue to do their show because they liked working with me. But I just said, hey, area where I'm at with my church and my family, it's important to me. I'm always available to you, but I need to take a new step. So I speak to that in the sense of like, it's not always just hip hip hoorah. No, and I'll even say in this season too, where I've obviously of the season of transition, there have been some emotional times where I'm navigating. And it has nothing to do with what you're doing for our family, the provision, any of that. And I think we just naturally, emotionally, as women, have a tendency to just take it out on, obviously, the closest person that we love. And we're like, I'm just frustrated. And he's looking at me like with me? And it's like, no, I'm just frustrated. And most of the time for us as women, I know we can never even come up with the words of what we want to say because it has nothing to do with the spouse or the person. I'm just emotional right now. I'm overwhelmed. And most of the time, you'll ask me, you have stress? Yeah, not from you. It's what I have put on myself to say, like, okay, my husband's doing everything fine. Absolutely. But I'm allowing my emotions to just alter the way that I'm feeling, and my emotions just come out and I just may start crying. It feels like a weight, but then in that moment too, I have to be reminded and mindful of that I'm a child of God and I need to take my needs and my cares to Him. So in that moment of my frustration and looking back and even talking about with Sanaz and Nathan, now I can channel it better.
the more I've grown, and knowing that we're in this new season, because in this new season, it's been a lot. We've been on the go since the 21st. I don't think we've even taken a breath of just travel and new vision, new casting, all of these things, and new avenues of leadership and learning and growing with our staff. It's a lot. And learning and growing with myself to where I would never want to, not to say that you can't be my soundboard or having communication with, especially if I thought it was necessary, but that's between us, like within our marriage. Now, if it comes to work things, I need to be able to navigate that and truly reflect, like I said, the self-reflection that I've been doing of like, is this an Adam and Ashlee thing, or is this an Ashlee thing that needs to, that I need to, that I need to correct, that I need to channel and really reflect on my emotions and how I'm acting and how I'm reacting in this season, because I could be a detriment to the family if I all of a sudden go off hinge and start being emotional and this sucks, I didn't sign up for this. But you can truly get your emotions in the way and affect in a negative way, instead of just reflecting and saying, okay, I need a moment.
Yeah.
I need a moment.
And what I do see often is in the relationship, particularly, I know it on a male perspective, and this is what I hate when it comes down to is when the man is the most responsibility is providing is from the man. What can happen is if him and his wife don't have clear communication and clear support, what he can start to do is, though he is not as busy as he seems, he can make himself seem busy just to avoid her or the family. So in other words, like, oh, you coming home from work today? Oh, I can't. I have a meeting at 6. And he really doesn't have a meeting at 6. He can make a meeting at 6, but his meeting may be with a friend coworker, like his buddy. Not an inappropriate thing. Just oh man, sorry. I got to go into work tomorrow. And it's really what he's saying is like, you're more work than my work. So I would rather just tell you I have to be at work because you can't question that, because that's a matter of our provision, or I have a boss or whatever, and you can't say anything about it. Right. Like, oh, it's work. You want food on the table, right? Where really, like, if his home was somewhere that he enjoyed to be around, and now he may be adding to the wife's stress. I'm not talking about that. Right. But I'm talking about, like you said, sometimes I'm overwhelmed because of me. I'm overwhelmed because I'm not processing the kids well or processing a schedule well. And that's a me problem. Well, if the you problem became an us problem, and now you're like raging it toward me, and I'm going, well, like, what? How can I help you? What? Oh, nothing. And I'm just always the bad guy. Then I'm going to be like, oh, you need me where? In Alabama? Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. Hey, babe, sorry, I got to be in Alabama. Right, and you're like, oh, is it important? And I go, yeah, it's important. Yeah. What can you say about it? Yeah. But he's not going to tell you, oh, it's because you're a pain to be around or whatever, right? But I see it. Yeah. And I'm not saying that he's not guilty of some things. Because I know I can be a pain to be around too. I'm just saying that can be a reality if it's like we talked about, a couple of weeks ago here on the podcast, when you just were bad mood, you're yelling at the boys, you're yelling at me, and I'm just like, you're not doing us any good. Can you just go in the other room? And the husband may be that same way. Can you just go in the other room? Like, just detox for a second. But that's the reality. A person's not a joy to be around when they go, oh, it's not you. It's just I'm stressed. And it's like, well, just go figure out somewhere to put that stress, because now you're making me stressed. Yeah. And there's nothing I could do to help you. If it was just a matter of like, oh, just give me 45 minutes to take a bath and just cool off. Yeah, go do that. Yeah. But when it's like, I don't know what to do. Well, I mean, you're making a stressful environment for all of us then, Well,
I laugh because I've put us there multiple times, and I know I can. And that's just a natural look in the mirror and say, like, we're emotional beings. Women are emotional beings. Of course, if we do not know how to channel our emotions and take a deep breath and be the patient mother or patient wife, soft spoken, because that's just definitely not me. Yeah. Like, I've tried, and I'm like, oh, I think this is stressing me out more than anything. Like talking so soft. That's just not my
gentle parent.
Yeah. That's not me. I'm crazy. I'm crazy.
Not a gentle parent.
No, not at all. I sent him the TikTok the other day. I forget, it was Judge Judy screaming at everybody. I said, "This is me." Is there everyone says you're such a nice, loving mom, and then it was Judge Judy. Sit down, be quiet, shut up, and I was like, that's me.
Yeah,
but. It's honestly, you even being able to, I think that's sometimes, and it can go both ways though, because you respond well when if I make a statement of like, "Hey babe, are you good?" And you're like, I just need you to take the boys upstairs. Mm-hmm. And I get it. It has nothing to do with me. I don't take offense. I don't think that we're the annoyance. It's, you're studying, you want quiet time, you're detoxing, whatever that is. I think we have to get out of this mentality that when our spouse may need just a quiet time, you just need a quiet time, because everybody loves a quiet time.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a quiet time, because honestly, a quiet time is the best time for a Christian, because the quiet time is where God speaks loudest to you.
Yeah.
So why would you not assume that even in a relationship, to say, you know what, my husband needs quiet time right now. Maybe he needs a revelation from God, and I'm gonna pray for that, regardless of what you guys are arguing about. Or it's, hey, he does need a moment to pray for some peace.
Well, and for the most part, though I work a lot and I have a lot of obligations that I say yes to, when I'm home, I'm home.
Oh, yeah.
So that I made a standard of, like, I rarely take calls when I'm at home. Like it's hey, schedule it tomorrow, 8 o'clock, blah, blah, blah. I'll do it as early as you want. Right. But essentially what I've tried to make a rule, which is like normally 6:37 to 9 when my boys go to bed, that's a 3-hour block. That dinner may happen there, playing with them may happen there, helping with homework. And, besides either of us on social media and just mindlessly scrolling on our phones, I don't like anymore. Before we had kids, I did, but I don't prop my computer up on my lap at night on bed. Blah, blah. I let everybody go to bed, put the boys to bed, see what you're doing, resting. If you're just like, oh, I'm going to lay in bed and scroll on TikTok, okay, I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to get on my computer. So I try to block out that time, rather than, I never want the boys to think that when I'm home, there's this blur of like, oh, just dad's always working. Right. I work a lot, but I could give 3 to 4 hours of that bedtime routine. Normally it's 3. Yeah. I give that 3 hours and lock in with them. Yeah. I come home from work sometimes, bath church time, at 9:30. Yeah. I may get 20 minutes with them. Right. I don't even change yet. I just go sit with them, lay with them, fall asleep. Okay, go finish whatever else I was doing. So I try to pause as much as possible. Or I'm leaving work, you're taking the boys to practice. I may show up halfway into Matthias's practice, but I'm there. Right. Absolutely. So that I do try to make sure that, like, through the busyness, when I'm present, I'm present. I'm not halfway present. Right. My mind's not half into something, other than if it's stress. Then, of course, it's going to consume my mind. But in a natural day-to-day aspect, I'm not 50% in, 50% out. If it's that time with us, it's that time with us as best as I can. And then the last thing you and I did, and we could close it up from there, is what saves us immensely is we have an Apple shared calendar. Nancy has access to some of them. Phil has access to some of them. Nathan has access to some of them. Some of my accountability have access to some of them. Everyone for the most part, someone always knows what I'm doing, where I'm at. We have shared locations with multiple of our friends, with each other. Yep. And so, on a regular basis, you and I, on any given day, have a Apple shared calendar. And it's as simple as we have here, I'll read it off to give people, because they always want to know more, like, just, because you speak just generically.
What do you people have on it? I'm like, let me.
So we have these categories in our calendars, and so each one represents a color. And we do this every day. We've done it for 7 years now, and the more we've had kids now, it's become more and more important in our life. So we have family is green, my work is orange, Ashlee's work is purple, Ashlee's personal is blue, so that's her nails, her hair, her blah blah blah. My personal is red. Matthias's personal is green. That might be a haircut, a soccer practice, or whatever. Thomas is gray. Adam and Ashlee, which that may be like anything me and her have to do. So, that may be a date night. That may be, a tax, we got to go do taxes or whatever. And then lastly, my preaching schedule, which it's a little more defined from my work, that sometimes gets added there. So that's the whole thing. And then literally, like me looking at today alone, it's like, I don't know if anyone can see it, but you'll see right here. Yeah, if you're looking on YouTube, you will see all of those colors. That's today. That's Wednesday. So we got Beyond the Letter 1, Beyond the Letter 2. Ashlee has a lunch in there with someone from the church. Ashlee had coffee this morning with a member, with a girl in the church. I had a meeting with Pastor Charles. I have Beyond I Do right now that's on there. I got a meeting with a member before service tonight. And then I have my medication in there on when to take it, what day to take it. On the top, I have who our guest speaker is tonight, that Nathan has access to, my brother, who's our executive pastor. So all that stuff right there, like so Ashlee has access to this on her phone. And it's all through Apple. You might use Google or whatever. So our work has Microsoft. So you just do the work in the back end and send it, RSS feed to it. But basically, like, as this gets updated and changed and deleted, I can see when Ashlee updates times. I can see when Nancy updates times. Like, for me, my whole life, we live our lives through this. So we have a saying in our household, like, if it's not in the calendar, it doesn't exist. So if Ashlee's like, oh, tomorrow, can you help with the boys? I'll be like, go look at the calendar. And then she's like, oh, yeah, you do have something. Or she'll be like, I need your help, but I didn't put it in the calendar. I'll be like, I put going golf in there. She can't say, oh, now we can communicate. She says, oh, it's my mistake. But if I go, well, I have golf in there and she can't go, well, you're going to have to cancel golf. I'm gonna be like, no, I've had it in the calendar for a week. I'm not canceling golf because you forgot to add it in there. You got to move your nail appointment. Oh, well, I can't. It's like, okay, well, you didn't put it in the calendar, so I can't take the boys to school. So we have that level of discussion, but because the way our lives are driven, the busyness of schedule, we have to live by that law. Now, Ashlee could be like, well, that sucks because we got a trip, and I'll be like, okay, I'll see if we can push the tea time back an hour, but it's not guaranteed. I'll try if it's what we'll normally say is, hey, it's a genuine mistake. I'll see what I could do. But for the most part, we live by that as if it's law. Yeah. Like, if you did not put it in the calendar, that's on you. Absolutely. You got to figure out. There's been days you forgot to put stuff on the calendar, and I'm just like, that's on you. You got to figure out the boys. Yeah. If you put it in there, I would have immediately known. Right. Because we had little notes in it or whatever. But I'm like, I would have immediately known that you probably need help. But since it's not in there,
I wouldn't have known.
It's like, I'm not doing anything tomorrow morning. It's my rest day. And you're like, well, too bad. You should be like, no, it's a rest day. It's a rest day. So we try to live by, and for us, that makes us communicate better, more clearly. It keeps, it eliminates a lot of arguments. Right. Even though I named a couple, but those are very rare that we're even having those schedule. I'm just saying in case you do. But at first when you do it, you will forget to put a lot of stuff in there when you first start to apply that in your life. But for us who's now been consistently doing it for 7 years and religiously doing it for the past 4, we're 90% of our life is in there, to even the point of, simple stuff, going to the mall that day or going to the movies, like that stuff gets put in the calendar.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Disneyland gets put in the calendar. So,
and Ashlee will clarify. Ashlee will clarify. It'll literally say, whatever, July 17th, Disneyland with whole family. Or it'll say July 18th, Disneyland with Nikki and boys, or Disneyland girls night only, you watch boys. Yeah. And it's like, okay, I look at the calendar, I get the ding, and then that day comes up, I'm like, oh, I gotta adjust my work schedule today because Ashlee has me watching the boys. And to me, as long as it's open, it's like there's
never been a time we purposely overlapped anything, or I'll do something and one thing that's really nice about it is because sometimes I'll just book it because, just the sporadic and this is really not, nobody really cares. But it's booking my hair, lashes, nails. There have been multiple times too where I've double booked because I just look at, I'm like, oh, she's like, I have this day available. It's 2 weeks from now. I'm like, okay, yeah, book it. And then you'll message me right away when I put it in. Because sometimes I'll just go to the date. I don't look at it. I just click it and then add in. And you go, hey, I have appointment here, and I'm like, shoot, okay, I haven't left yet. Let me change it with her. So because it's instant. So that's the good thing about getting a calendar invite is understanding that it's instant, and you can see like, hey, does this actually line up? Because I mean, there have been a number of occasions too where I've put in like baby shower, and you're like, am I going to this? I'm like, nope. You see, it's just in green.
Yeah, it's in green. It's for
Ashley.
Ashlee. It's not Ashley and Adam, or it's not in the family category or whatever it is. So. We literally have, you know, if not 100, right around 100
But the one thing that I will
do the calendar thing.
But I will say the one thing that is really good that I would be mindful of is try to look at your full calendar. If you are that busy that like if you're saying you're a gentleman that is that busy in corporate or life, don't go putting in things in the calendar the week of.
No,
go through your calendar throughout. You have it through the rest of the year.
Yeah, I literally have
the rest
till
of the
December
year.
Unless it's an emergency. But I have all my trips for the year, all the conferences I'm at the year. You know, any speaking engagement. It's all in there.
It's all in there.
Yeah,
and there may be some sporadic speaking engagements, but those are easy. It's a Sunday.
It's a 24-hour, 48-hour thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's so good.
Well, hopefully this conversation helped some people out or gave you some practical application or shared a little bit about into our daily, plus the question about being with someone that has a high intensity work environment, you know?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining in, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.